It's getting harder and harder to ignore just how interwoven our technology is with, well, the very fabric of our lives, isn't it?
It really is.
And when the control of that technology lies outside of Europe, maybe in the hands of those with different priorities,
Hmm.
it creates a real vulnerability,
Hmm. A significant vulnerability for our societies, our economies.
which brings us to a critical question for Europe.
Mm.
How do we move from being, just a consumer in the digital world to an active architect?
Exactly. And that's the central challenge that this EuroStack report tackles. It was commissioned by Bertelsmann Stiftung with support from CEPS, Mercator Stiftung, and UCL IIPP.
Yeah.
And in this deep dive, we're going to unpack their proposal. It's essentially a European alternative for achieving digital sovereignty.
Okay.
Think of it like a strategic roadmap for Europe to gain greater digital independence, even while being globally connected.
So our mission today is to pull out the most vital insights from this EuroStack initiative for you, the listener. What are the core parts and, well, what's the realistic path for Europe to actually achieve this?
Yeah, because the report, it doesn't really hold back on describing the current situation.
No.
No, it's a pretty stark assessment.
Mhm.
The core argument is that Europe's heavy reliance on imported digital tech, mostly from the US and China, creates these big vulnerabilities.
Okay.
And this dependence limits Europe's ability to compete effectively and, crucially, to uphold its own values in the digital sphere.
And there was a stat, wasn't there?
Yes, the report points out that over 80% of Europe's digital technologies are currently imported.
80%.
That single statistic really underscores the scale of the challenge, you know?
Wow. Okay, let's unpack this EuroStack then. The report calls it an infrastructural layered framework. What does that actually look like? What does that mean?
It's actually a very helpful way to visualize the whole digital ecosystem. The report draws on the work of Carlota Perez. She studies how big tech revolutions unfold.
Ah, okay.
And her framework suggests that the current ICT revolution is now in what she calls a deployment phase,
Deployment phase.
which basically means we need a strong, pervasive underlying infrastructure for digital tech to really transform society and industry. So the EuroStack framework, it breaks down all the essential components into these distinct layers.
Starting from the ground up.
Exactly, starting from the foundational elements.
So let's get into these layers. Where does this digital stack begin? What's the base?
The base layer, the absolute foundation, is resources.
Okay.
This includes critical raw materials, think rare earth elements, lithium, cobalt, which are just essential for so much of our tech.
Right. Batteries, electronics.
Exactly. Plus reliable energy sources and, crucially, a skilled workforce. But this layer immediately highlights a major vulnerability.
Oh.
China's dominance in refining rare earth elements. They control something like 90% of the global refining capacity.
90%. That's not just dependency. That's a potential chokehold, isn't it?
It's a significant point of leverage, absolutely.
Okay, wow. What's the next layer up in the stack?
The next layer is chips. So here we're talking about the fundamental building blocks. Processors, memory, GPUs.
The brains of the operation.
Pretty much. And also emerging areas like quantum communication systems. Europe's current position here is also a bit concerning.
How so?
Well, Europe consumes about 20% of the world's microchips, but it only manufactures around 9%.
Only 9%.
Which creates a strategic vulnerability. We saw that with the recent supply chain disruptions, didn't we?
They certainly did.
Now, the European Chips Act aims to boost that to 20% by 2030.
That sounds necessary, but ambitious.
It is ambitious, and it faces challenges. The report mentions the delay in Intel's big factory plan for Germany as an example of the financial and market complexities.
Right.
But the report also points to a key European strength, ASML.
Ah, the Dutch company.
Exactly.
Okay.
Their global dominance in the highly specialized equipment needed to make advanced chips is huge.
A real asset.
Definitely. And another promising thing is the growing adoption of the RISC-V open standard architecture.
Because it's open.
Yes, being an open standard offers Europe potentially greater technological independence compared to relying only on proprietary chip designs.
Okay, so we have the raw materials, the processing power. What connects it all? What's next?
That brings us to the networks layer.
Right.
This covers both the physical infrastructure, things like cell towers, fiber optic cables, those vital undersea cables carrying vast amounts of data.
Undersea cables seem critical, but also quite vulnerable.
They are. And the layer also includes the digital protocols that let information flow. But a key concern for Europe here is the dominance of U.S. companies in cloud computing infrastructure within Europe.
Like Amazon, Microsoft, Google.
Exactly. Together, they hold nearly 70% of the market share. The report also touches on those undersea cable vulnerabilities you mentioned and the potential of something called Open RAN technology.
Open RAN.
Yeah, it's a tech aiming to create more open, interoperable mobile network equipment, so reducing reliance on just a few big suppliers.
Interesting. Okay, so physical and digital pathways covered. What builds on top of that connectivity?
Then we move to connected devices and IoT, the Internet of Things.
Oh, all the gadgets.
Pretty much everything from our smartphones and laptops to this rapidly expanding universe of IoT devices. They're constantly generating massive amounts of real-time data.
And growing fast, I imagine.
Hugely. The report forecasts growth from about 18 billion devices in 2024 to a staggering 39 billion by 2033.
39 billion. Wow. And all that data needs to go somewhere.
Which leads us naturally to the next layer, cloud infrastructure.
Makes sense.
This is the layer providing secure data storage and the computational power needed to process all that information.
And again, the U.S. dominance issue comes up here.
Yes, absolutely. As we mentioned with networks, U.S. providers like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud have a very strong grip. They control nearly 70% of the infrastructure as a service, or ILS, market.
70%.
And the report notes a worrying decline in the market share for European cloud providers. It really underscores the urgency.
Is anything being done about that?
Well, it does mention the Digital Markets Act, the DMA, as a regulatory tool trying to address this kind of market control by the big players.
Okay, so we've got the physical infrastructure, the virtual storage. What acts as the sort of central nervous system, the control mechanism?
This is where EuroS comes in. It's quite a central concept in the report.
EuroS, like an operating system for Europe.
In a way, yeah. The report envisions it as Europe's digital control center, and it includes crucial initiatives like the digital ID wallet and the digital euro.
Okay, tell me more about those.
So the digital ID wallet, which is linked to the IDOS 2.0 regulation, aims to give people and businesses secure, privacy-preserving digital identities that work seamlessly across borders. Interoperable.
That sounds potentially very useful. And the digital euro.
That's proposed as a central bank-backed digital currency. The idea is universal access, secure transactions, all while sticking to Europe's strong data protection standards like GDPR.
Right, privacy baked in. That sounds like a really fundamental component for genuine digital autonomy.
It really does.
So after we can identify ourselves and transact securely, what's next?
Building on that secure foundation, we get to data commons.
Data commons.
Sharing data.
Essentially, yes. This layer focuses on creating federated data exchange mechanisms. The goal is to foster innovation across different sectors.
How would that work?
Well, it includes industry-specific initiatives like Manufacturing X and Catena X.
For manufacturing and automotive?
Exactly, improving collaboration and efficiency in supply chains. But it also includes public interest data platforms, inspired by successful models like Finland's Suomi.fi or Estonia's X-Road.
Ah, those are well-known examples.
Right, and the big emphasis here is on fair data principles.
There.
Findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. These principles are key to unlocking the value in data while making sure it can be used effectively and ethically for research and innovation.
So securely sharing data across sectors to boost innovation and efficiency. Got it.
Precisely. And the final layer in this proposed stack is Euro AI.
AI, of course. Yes, outlining a distinctively European approach to developing and deploying artificial intelligence.
How would that be different?
The focus is on creating large, multilingual AI models that reflect European values or cultural diversity.
Interesting.
And this would be complemented by smaller, more tailored AI models for specific uses, plus techniques like composite learning to help preserve privacy in AI systems.
But isn't a lot of AI development reliant on existing infrastructure?
That's a key point the report makes. Currently, over 70% of generative AI startups rely on Google Cloud for their infrastructure.
70% again.
Yeah, it highlights the need for stronger European alternatives in this absolutely critical area.
It's a really comprehensive stack, isn't it? Covering everything from, well, the rocks in the ground up to advanced AI.
It really tries to capture the whole picture.
But the report also talks about the political economy of digital sovereignty. Why is that economic and political angle so important?
This section is crucial because it explains why this EuroStack isn't just a tech project. It's presented as a fundamental strategic imperative.
Okay.
It highlights how the huge market concentration and vertical integration we see with the major tech companies, US and Chinese, across this whole digital stack poses really substantial risks.
That's
Stifling competition, undermining our ability to regulate effectively, even impacting democratic governance. I mean, think about the vast integrated ecosystems built by Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Apple, Meta.
Tesla, SpaceX.
Exactly. And their Chinese counterparts like Huawei, Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance, they exert control over so many layers of this digital infrastructure.
It really does feel like you're building their own kind of self-contained digital empire.
Precisely. And a major engine for this dominance is data monopolization.
The sheer amount of data they collect.
Yes, the incredible volume of user data collected by platforms like Google and Meta fuels their AI models and generates massive advertising revenues. The report mentions Google and Meta control a very significant slice of global digital ad revenue.
Right.
This data advantage creates these feedback loops, making it incredibly hard for new European players to compete effectively. And beyond the economics, the report touches on the societal consequences. Platform algorithms potentially amplifying, polarizing content, shaping public discourse.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we're seeing those dynamics play out constantly. The report also compares industrial policy efforts, US, China versus Europe.
It does. Both the U.S., with its CHIPS and Science Act, and China have put in place these large-scale, highly coordinated industrial policy programs. Big investments.
Treating tech as critical infrastructure.
Explicitly. Designating these technologies as critical for economic and national security. The report observes that the EU's approach has, historically at least, been more decentralized, perhaps less strategically coordinated in comparison.
But it's not all doom and gloom, is it? The report must highlight Europe's strengths, too. We do have assets.
Oh, absolutely. It strongly emphasizes Europe's existing industrial and technological excellence. Think of companies like ASML and chip manufacturing equipment.
We mentioned them.
And SAP and enterprise software. These are genuine European global leaders. And even though innovative firms like ARM and DeepMind ended up being acquired by foreign companies.
Right, which was a shame in some ways.
Their origins in Europe really highlight the continent's strong innovative capacity. Plus, Europe has significant strengths in advanced manufacturing, networking tech, robotics, certain chip segments, biotech.
And what about on the software side?
Yeah.
And maybe some of the, let's say, less obvious strengths?
Well, Europe has a surprisingly vibrant ecosystem of successful software companies and also thriving open source initiatives. The report mentions SAP, of course, but also Nextcloud, LibreOffice, Dassault Systems, Dailies, Bitdefender.
Security design software.
Exactly. And newer AI players like Mistral and Aleph Alpha, plus industrial giants like Siemens, automation specialists like UiPath from Romania, language tech leaders like DeepL from Germany, and process mining innovators like Celonis.
So quite a list.
Definitely. And beyond companies, the report points to numerous existing EU initiatives and alliances across the tech spectrum. Things like the European Raw Materials Alliance, ERMA, initiatives for microelectronics like IPCEI on microelectronics and silicon Saxony, important projects of common European interest. It allows state aid for strategic areas. There are also alliances for industrial data, edge, cloud, IoT, AI, like the European AI Alliance, AI for EU platform.
There's already a lot happening.
There is. It shows a clear recognition of the challenges and concerted efforts, even if maybe fragmented sometimes, to address them.
The report also includes some really helpful illustrative MVPs, minimum viable products, just to give us a concrete sense of how this EuroStack could actually work in practice. Can you walk us through a couple?
Yeah, these MVPs are great for making it tangible. One example is Clara's Experience. It focuses on cross-border mobility and healthcare.
Okay, how did that work?
Imagine Clara seamlessly using her digital ID wallet for secure identification across different EU countries. She pays for things with a universally accepted digital euro. She can access her medical records securely through a federated data exchange system while traveling.
Without data getting stuck in one country's system.
Exactly. And maybe she gets personalized, low-carbon travel recommendations powered by federated AI analyzing real-time data. It really highlights interoperability, privacy, sustainability potential.
That does paint a very tangible picture for everyday citizens. What's another example?
Another good one is Marcus in smart manufacturing.
Okay.
He uses the digital euro for instant secure payments with suppliers. He shares vital material quality data securely via the Federated Data Exchange to enable predictive maintenance on machinery.
Preventing breakdowns.
Right. And he leverages federated AI to analyze production data across different EU factories, his own and maybe partners. This collaboration helps spot inefficiencies, minimize waste, cut energy use.
Directly contributing to Green Deal goals.
Precisely. Enhanced efficiency, sustainability through this interconnected system.
And there was a third one, too, wasn't there? About medicine.
Yes. The third MVP features Maria's work in cross-border genomic innovation for precision medicine.
Sensitive data, that one.
Highly sensitive, but
Okay.
the idea is she can securely share anonymized genomic research findings through the Federated Data Exchange while rigorously protecting patient privacy.
Privacy is key there.
Absolutely. This secure, privacy-respecting data sharing could speed up drug development and lead to more personalized medical treatments across Europe. It shows the power of secure collaboration in really sensitive fields.
These MVPs really do bring the maybe abstract concept of the EuroStack down to earth. Makes it clear.
Yeah, I think they help a lot.
But what are the biggest hurdles? The main challenges in actually making this vision a reality? It sounds great, but also difficult.
The report is definitely clear about the significant hurdles. First, just addressing those deep-rooted structural dependencies and bottlenecks across the whole digital stack. That's a massive, complex job.
Just undoing the current situation.
Exactly. Then there's the financial dimension. There's a notable R&D investment gap in Europe compared to the US and China.
Money talks.
Especially when it comes to crucial growth stage funding for European deep tech companies to actually scale up. We're good at starting things, less good at growing them into global giants sometimes.
Right.
The report also stresses the strategic need for strong international partnerships with countries in Africa, the Middle East, other rising powers, diversifying dependencies, building a more resilient global setup.
So not just about Europe retreating inwards.
No, definitely not. More about building strategic alliances.
And what specific recommendations does the report make? Key steps forward.
It offers a pretty comprehensive set. Strengthening cybersecurity through rigorous cross-stack audits is paramount.
Makes sense.
Aligning defense and space strategies more closely to foster autonomy in critical sectors. For chips, prioritizing high-value niches like AI-optimized or energy-efficient chips rather than trying to do everything.
Playing to strengths.
Exactly. Accelerating 5G deployment and integrating edge cloud infrastructure is vital for future connectivity. Implementing preferential public procurement, government buying, favoring European cloud solutions.
Using purchasing power.
Yes, actively enabling that interoperable, secure, cross-sector data sharing we talked about. Significantly boosting support for European AI startups' creation and growth.
Nurturing the next generation.
All right. Fostering quantum technology adoption across critical industries. Aligning funding better with climate and resource efficiency goals. Making sure publicly funded innovation is actually valorized within Europe.
Keeping the value here.
And it even suggests the European Commission and the European Investment Bank, the EIB, should consider taking equity stakes in strategically important European tech companies.
Direct investment. That's quite a step.
It is. It shows the level of strategic thinking involved.
It's a truly ambitious, multifaceted plan. So, wrapping up, what's the overarching message here? What's the ultimate point of this EuroStack initiative for Europe?
Well, I think ultimately it's about recognizing that achieving digital sovereignty isn't just about reducing dependencies for its own sake, you know?
It's not just offensive.
No, it's about proactively building a thriving, competitive digital future for Europe. One that's firmly grounded in European values, privacy, transparency, democratic governance, and one that empowers the continent to be a leading force and architect on the global digital stage.
This deep dive into the EuroStack report, it really gives you a lot to think about. It leaves you with, I think, a fundamental question. How can Europe really balance this ambition for digital independence with the deeply interconnected reality of the global digital economy? It's not easy.
Not at all.
And maybe also, what role can each of us as individual citizens play in actually shaping this digital future? It's definitely a topic worth exploring further. You can find the full EuroStack report online if you want to get into all the details yourself and really consider the implications of digital sovereignty for your own life and work.